federal government breaks silence on reopening of Abuja-Kaduna train operations, says recommencement of services would be insensitive. Efcc and INEC clash on bill to create Electoral Offences Commission. And Vice President Yemi Osinbajo launches federal government's energy transition plan as Nigeria seeks $10 billion initial support package. Many thanks for joining us on News Now. I am Abisola Adebayo. The federal government says it cannot resume the suspended Abuja-Kaduna train operation now because it will be insensitive to the plight of train attack victims whose family members are still in captivity. The Minister of Transportation, Muazu Sambo, said this while addressing State House correspondents after the Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday in Abuja. The minister added that the government is still investigating the right type of surveillance equipment to procure in order to effectively monitor the tracks along the Abuja-Kaduna route, as well as concessioning it in a public-private partnership arrangement. In March, terrorists attacked a Kaduna-bound train and abducted some passengers. While some victims have been released, others are still in captivity. Following the attack, the Nigeria Railway Corporation suspended train service on the rail corridor.
There are two core matters at the heart of the resumption of the Abuja-Kaduna rail services. And these core issues are: one, families are traumatized over their loved ones that are still in captivity. Two, we need to have a surveillance and monitoring system on the rail track that would ensure that such incidents never happen again. So we are pursuing these two things at the same time, trying to get the victims of the kidnap released, and at the same time looking for the best solution in terms of surveillance. We are looking at so many options. We want to go for the best one, a sustainable one, and don't forget, ultimately, whatever we have as a template between Abuja and Kaduna that succeeds would also serve the thousands of kilometers of rail lines across the country.
The federal government has approved 54.82 billion naira for various projects in the Ministries of Works and Housing and Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. This is as it approved a refund totaling 9.18 billion naira to Kebbi and Taraba states for federal road projects executed by their governments during the Jonathan administration. The ministers of the respective ministries disclosed this to State House correspondents shortly after Wednesday's Federal Executive Council meeting in Abuja. On her part, the Humanitarian Affairs Minister, Sadiya Farouk Umar, who presented 4 memos on behalf of the Northeast Development Commission, revealed that our ministry will collaborate with other government and private agencies to deliver 4 road reconstruction projects in Borno, Yobe, Adamawa, and Bauchi states.
The Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development presented to Council on behalf of the Northeast Development Commission 4 memos. These memos are in respect of road reconstruction for 5 states of the Northeast region, namely Borno, Yobe, Adamawa, Gombe, and Bauchi.
Contract for the reconstruction of the Mushin NNPC Apapa Oshodi road. That is the road that goes through Isolo to Ejibo. The report and recommendation of a council committee set up by the president in order to respond to demands by state governments for refunds on intervention made previously before this administration on federal roads before the president subsequently issued the directive that there should be no more intervention by states on federal roads, but there were some that had been done before the life of this administration.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has opposed the establishment of an Electoral Offense Commission citing duplication of functions. The stance of the EFCC was delivered by its Assistant Commandant Deborah Ademwete on Tuesday at the public hearing organized by the House of Representatives Committee on Electoral Matters. According to her, electoral offences are already covered under the Penal and Criminal Codes, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act, and the Economic and Financial Crimes Establishment Act 2004. However, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) says it wants to see more prosecutions of high-profile figures sponsoring electoral offences. Chairman of INEC, Mahmoud Yakubu, said the reform of the nation's electoral process cannot achieve its desired results without the effective sanctions of violators. The bill provides for various sanctions ranging from 6 months to 20 years, as well as fines ranging from 100,000 naira to 50 million naira.
We look forward to the day when highly placed sponsors of thuggery, including high-profile figures that seek to benefit from these violations, are arrested and prosecuted. We believe that the work of the proposed commission will help in this regard. The ballot box snatcher is unlikely to be a beneficiary of the election. The person who gives money at the polling unit is unlikely to be a beneficiary of the election. And these shenanigans will not stop until we get to their sponsors, the high-profile sponsors of these violations, and make an example out of them.
More significantly, with less number of legal officers and with other operational deficiencies, INEC clearly does not have the needed human capacity to prosecute electoral offences committed across Nigeria's 973 polling units. Indeed, INEC herself has admitted that it lacks the wherewithal to cleanse the system. For example, its inability to prosecute even 1% of the 870,000 alleged electoral offences committed in the 2011 general election is an affirmation of the necessity of a paradigm shift on how we deal with electoral offences in Nigeria. INEC should be detached from handling electoral offences and be left to solely focus on its core mandate of conducting election and facing post-election assignments.
Well, to speak further on the matter, Omori Aiwe, who is the Senior Monitoring and Evaluation Officer for Center for Democracy and Development, joins us now. Thank you very much for joining us on the news. The EFCC has opposed the establishment of the Electoral Offense Commission, citing duplication of functions. How exactly would you react to this?
Oh, thank you very much for having me. The truth of the matter is that there is no duplication of effort. If there were duplication of effort, by this time, we would have been counting success stories of prosecution of election of offenders, but that has not happened. In any case, it was the INEC that went to lobby, permit me to use the word lobby, EFCC to come on board to try to arrest a critical aspect of electoral fraud, which was, which of course, vote buying. INEC EFCC's positioning in the last 2 years had come in by the invitation of INEC to try to sweep across polling unit to arrest persons or political actors who are seen buying a vote on election day. But beyond vote buying are other critical matters that go beyond just economic crime, as it were. There are electoral crimes, there are electoral fraud that if the Penal Code or the EFCC Act or the Electoral Act has been able to achieve all of those, we won't be where we are now, where we are clamoring for a commission that will deal with specifically electoral offenses, electoral malfeasance. We were at this point when the police at some point We are responsible for prosecution. And if you listen to INEC over time, and including civil society organization, all of the people were arrested in 2015, all of those who were arrested in 2019, how many of such cases did we follow through that the EFCC did prosecute or the police did prosecute? We all know that INEC lacked the power, INEC lacked the resources, INEC lacked the will to take on electoral offenses. Let's keep that out to an agency, to a commission. I think that's the essence of this whole idea of supporting the Electoral Offenses Commission in our country to clean up the mess that has bedeviled our electoral processes.
Right now, the bill provides for various sanctions ranging from 6 months to 20 years, as well as fines from 100,000 naira to 50 million naira. You know, some stakeholders have said that these sanctions are actually unrealistic. Do you agree with them?
Anything that will clean up our electoral processes should be supported. Anything. And one of those is the beavers. And you've seen the way we supported the beavers. One of those is the improvement in our electoral landscape through the Electoral Act of 2022. Now we are having an Electoral Offenses Commission. If the offenses is just 20,000 naira, I mean, people can commit it and pay for 100,000 people. If the amount is sufficient enough, it will serve as deterrent. Don't forget, the whole idea of this is to serve as deterrent to electoral manipulators. There are several of these cases, like you said, it ranges. There are worst cases, there are minimal cases. For example, if a presiding officer manipulates an electoral process, it wouldn't serve the jail of 20 years. I think that's about 6 months or thereabout, between 6 months and a year. So it will put electoral officials, particularly presiding officers, officers at their toe, not to engage in anything that will send them to jail. And many of such cases are important. If you have followed antecedent in this country, we were here when a returning officer in Imo had cried out that at gunpoint or at duress, under duress, he had to declare candidate. And because even though the Electoral Act has solved those processes, but how do we deal with those political actors who subject our election officials under duress to make certain declarations? There need to be high sanctions, very high sanctions. If I have my way, you should increase those sanctions. Not even talking about reduction. We need to increase them, because you know why it is important? Our leadership selection process is the bane of our democratic development, is the bane of our advancement as a country. If we have a selection process that will turn out real leaders of Nigeria, we will have a great Nigeria tomorrow. But if we continue to hide under manipulation electoral processes, we are going to have the kind of leaders we never ever imagine in our lifetime. We should come together as Nigeria to have an electoral system that is devoid of electoral offenses.
Right, Amaria Igbe, Senior Monitoring and Evaluation Officer for the Center for Democracy and Development. Thank you so much for joining us on the news, and thanks for your contributions. Moving on, as a major pathway in achieving universal energy access by 2030 and a carbon-neutral economy by 2060, the federal government has launched Nigeria's Energy Transition Plan. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at the global launch on Wednesday said the plan was designed to tackle energy poverty and climate change crises, as well as deliver Sustainable Development Goal 7 by 2030 and Net Zero by 2060. He said the plan will, among other things, lift 100 million people out of poverty, reduce Nigeria's carbon footprint, drive economic growth, as well as create jobs. He added that it is time for Nigeria and the African continent to take ownership of transition pathways and design climate-sensitive strategies that address peculiar growth objectives. The partnership between the International Organization for Migration (IOM) and the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission (NIDCOM) in building legal pathway for regular migration has been regarded as noteworthy. This is according to Senior Program Coordinator of IOM, Victor Lutenko, during a visit to the Chairman CEO of Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabire-Rewa, in Abuja. Lutenko, who said the partnership has become pertinent and inevitable, added that the visit is focused on dealing with emergency situations, humanitarian context, context, consequences of irregular migration, and trying to provide assistance in terms of rehabilitation and reintegration. On his part, the NIDCOM Secretary Sule Basi, who received the delegation, lauded the IOM for supporting some of the Commission's programs right from inception, such as midwifing the publication of the National Diaspora Policy, among many other things.
We have returnees, Nigerian returnees from basically all over, right? Whom we're trying to help reintegrate in the society. So that's taking a lot of our energy, time, blood, everything, right? But what we have to recognize, and we were talking about this with the colleagues from our donor agencies, international partners, that we have to invest more and more in not just in responding to the consequences of irregular migration, but in building opportunities for regular migration, building legal pathways for migration.
We have quite a lot of Nigerians doing very good outside the Nigerian boundary. We have a diaspora registration portal that runs 24/7. So we are trying to capture who is out there, what skill sets do they have, what can they bring to the table in terms of engaging with the Nigerian economy by investing in it, by giving to charity, or by just being there as Nigerians. So we at NIDCOM engages with them on that. We have programs tailored to achieving our mandate and objective. We have several of them. First, one of the things the government did was to have a national diaspora policy. So we are one of the countries, foremost countries in Africa that have a specific diaspora policy to engage with our diaspora in programs, in projects towards the sustainable development of Nigeria.
But we'll take a break now, but still to come, NFF blames FIFA for falconets sleeping on the floor of Istanbul airport. Details of this story and more right after this break. Welcome back. Now here is a recap of some of our top stories tonight. The federal government says it cannot resume the suspended Abuja-Kaduna train operation now because it will be insensitive to the plight of train attack victims whose family members are still in captivity. Explaining further, the Minister of Transportation, Muazu Sambo, said the government is still investigating the right type of surveillance equipment to procure in order to effectively monitor the tracks along the Abuja-Kaduna route, as well as concessioning it in a public-private partnership arrangement. Well, in case you missed any of our news bulletin or for more updates, do log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Google Plus at TV360 Nigeria, on Facebook or at TV360 Online. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has said that Kaduna and Oyo states have joined Lagos, the Federal Capital Territory, as well as River States, to top the 5 states with the highest cumulative number of COVID-19 cases in the country. The Director General of NCDC, Ifedayo Adetifa, discussed this in Abuja at the ministerial bi-weekly meeting on the update of COVID-19 response and development in the country's health sector. Adetifa further said that from August 13 to 15, the country reported 144 additional confirmed cases, adding that since the outbreak of the pandemic in the country in February 2020, there has been over 5 million samples tested, 262,000 confirmed cases, and 3,147 deaths. Meanwhile, Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has said the country will waive pre-departure COVID-19 tests for vaccinated travelers to the country, but daily caps on entrance will remain in place. Japan has maintained some of the strictest pandemic border measures among major economies, requiring travelers to present a negative coronavirus test taken within 72 hours of departure. The border easing comes as Japan deals with a seventh wave of infections driven by the infectious BA4 and BA5 variants that have forced companies to idle production lines and driven COVID deaths to record 343 on Tuesday. Well, we'll take another break now and return with business updates. Don't go away. Welcome back. Mary Kanu now joins me with the latest business update. Mary, what's the latest?
Well, thank you, Abisola. Hello and welcome to Business News. The Nigerian Export Promotion Council says revenue generated from non-oil exports increased to $2.59 billion from January to June 2022. Executive Director of NEPC, Ezra Yakusak, who disclosed this while presenting the Council's 2022 half-year result in Abuja, said the figure represents the highest half-year record since 2018. According to him, the latest report marks a 62.37% increase compared to the $1.59 billion recorded in the first half year of 2021.
Products got 36.28%, total of 4,146,534 metric tons of product worth $2.5 billion were exported between January to June 2020.
While still in business, the Standard Organization of Nigeria has advocated improved collaboration between the agency and the players in the Nigerian manufacturing sector so as to redefine the process of production of goods to meet acceptable standards. The Director General, Standards Organization of Nigeria, Farouk Salim, who disclosed this, said the agency will continue to ensure that local manufacturers are protected against importation of fake and substandard goods. On his part, the National President of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Mansur Ahmed, assured that the manufacturers will continuously collaborate with Standard Organization of Nigeria and ensure that any of its members that errs in sustaining the set standards is brought to book.
We are on the ground, so we know who is manufacturing what kind of product. We know who is importing or bringing fake and substandard products. And we work together with them to ensure that they have the information and they can take the appropriate action that would be necessary to keep these fake products out of our economy, out of our markets, because that will be necessary to give our manufacturers, our members, the ability to exploit the market fully, and particularly in this regard, to be able to export products on a competitive basis.
Without standards, you don't even know as a customer what you're buying. And then if you complain, you have to use standards to complain against it. So the judge cannot use anything to give you judgment if standards are not used. And if standards are not used in a facility, the factory will not be efficient, and they will not be efficient, and they will not be able to keep going, because in a business like a factory or industry, efficiency ensures the continuity of the industry. If any industry that is not efficient will eventually collapse, and you cannot be efficient without standards.
Standardization no doubt improves clarity, guarantees quality, promotes productivity, boosts employee morale, positively projects the image of the organization while at the same time improves customer service.
Well, we'll take a break here and return with a review of the stock market. And investors have found a reason to smile as the Nigerian Stock Exchange has recorded its first gains this week, and the market is up 0.25% despite the basis point dropping below the 49,000 level to 48,675 points as 7 billion naira was gained by investors. Now the bull is in charge, and at the end of Wednesday's trading session there was an 18% decline in volume but 6% improvement in turnover and deals. Now in the aggregate, 102 NGX listed equities participated in trading, ending with 16 gainers and 12 losers, as NEM Insurance Company led the gainers with 10% share price appreciation, closing at 4 naira 84 kobo per share, followed by Stanbic IBTC Holdings. Now, despite stockbroking firms still dealing with the fallout of the demutualization of the defunct Nigerian stock, investors stay positive that today's gains can be replicated. Now, moving on to some select global stocks, it's mixed trading day for V stocks as the bear is in charge in the UK and Asia, while the US stock is trading higher today following 3 days of losses as the Dow Jones stocks looks to snap its longest losing streak in a month. That's why we can see that the Dow Jones is currently trading in the greens at 0.49%. Of that's the stock market report. Over to Abisola for the latest from the global scene.
Thank you very much, Mary. Pope Francis has renewed calls for peace in Ukraine. The Pope made this call on Wednesday in commemoration of the war-torn country's Independence Day and the 6th-month anniversary of the start of Russia's invasion. Citing the innocents who are paying for the outcome of the war, the Pope expressed hope that concrete steps will be taken to put an end to the war and to avert the risk of a nuclear disaster in Zaporizhia. In sport, the Nigeria Football Federation (NFF) says it was not involved in the traveling plans that has left Nigeria's under-20 women's team Falconets stranded for 24 hours at Istanbul in Turkey. Pictures of the Falconets sleeping on the floor at the Istanbul airport sparked rage on social media on Wednesday, with fans blaming the federation for negligence. However, NFF spokesperson Demola Olajire in a statement on Wednesday said the situation was due to inability to secure transit visas for the team, adding that the tickets were booked by FIFA and not the federation. The Falconets were returning home following their exit at the Women's World Cup in Costa Rica after bowing out of the tournament on Sunday following a 2-0 loss to Netherlands in the quarterfinal stage of the competition. Well, that's the size of our news bulletin this evening. Thank you very much for watching. I am Abisola Adebayo.